Elysium is an elaborate space habitat that houses the elite and powerful. But on Earth, people suffer and die to keep Elysium running. To save his life, a factory worker concocts an elaborate scheme to take it down in Elysium.
Hi, I'm Salim.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Kevin, and we are here to talk about the new sci-fi action thriller, Elysium. We've all just seen it. Scott, take it away.
First, let's just start. Neill Blomkamp's last movie, District 9, came out in 2009, nominated for Best Picture, one of the best sci-fi allegories since 1968's Planet of the Apes. It was an allegory for apartheid. But with Elysium, Neill Blomkamp overreaches. This is a movie that is too convoluted and too confusing, and now that he has a much bigger budget to work with, it just looks like more of the same, and I felt like I'd seen it before. I was disappointed.
No, me too. I mean, the first 10 minutes of the film are breathtaking. Elysium, what the world looks like, it looks wonderful. But then after 20 minutes, you recognize there's not a lot of story. It's a lot of the sci-fi bells and whistles, and that's about it. District 9 worked because not only was it this allegory, but it had this documentary footage aspect to it, and it had a handle on it. It had Peter Jackson there as well to really keep it from veering this way and veering that way. It had a pretty coherent story, and it had a pretty coherent love story, which I think was really lacking here.
There's these med beds, which, you know, if you're sick or injured, will heal you in like 10 seconds. And that will cause an overpopulation problem because nobody will be dying. And I thought that idea was actually more interesting than what he did with the rest of the film.
It's almost like they had so many ideas, so many things they wanted to touch on, but they didn't follow through because it turned into just another big-budgeted action thriller.
Like a fight movie.
Yeah. I felt like he was so obsessed and so happy with this world that he created, he didn't feel the need to create a story that it could live in. And as a result, a lot of these characters are just flat, and especially with Matt Damon, because usually he's amazing.
Flat.
Completely flat, the entire movie. You know exactly what's going to happen to his character, and none of it is really all that interesting.
I thought he carried the film well enough. His character just wasn't interesting. The problem was Jodie Foster, whose character A does nothing. And she's, I hate to say it, but she's so bad.
My main problem with Jodie Foster's character is that her storyline was so unmanicured. She was very reactionary to whatever was happening, as if she's not been in this world before. It's like, why now? Why is she going crazy now?
I agree. Her character has no motivation. There's no backstory. I almost felt like they actually cut out her story because there's a scene of her going into a party and she's like kissing, I think, her husband and her kids, and then it cuts away and you're done. And I was like, well, what was the point of that?
So many characters in this movie. They are stock characters. They are full of cliches. And even though, like you said, Matt Damon does hold the film together, but that's because he is Matt Damon and he can just do that. He's such a great actor. And the way he transforms himself physically, whether he's getting buff for the Jason Bourne movies or soft for The Informant, and then, of course, he gets very, very buff, shaves his head for this film. He is a committed actor.
I did love Sharlto Copley as Kruger.
Oh,
he's probably one of the better.
I don't
you know,
like him.
I loved him. You know, again, over the top, but he does these over the top characters in A-Team and here, and I think he does these characters very well.
My problem with Sharlto Copley is that his character is just very one note. It's one-dimensional. He's just like this mean guy who barks orders and he's like "Rah!" all the time. I found him uninteresting. I thought the villain should have been Jodie Foster, and I was waiting for her to be the villain, and then he ends up being the villain, but he's like a cartoon.
the special effects in this movie were impressive. The space station, Elysium, even though it looked like the space station from 2001: A Space Odyssey, as a sci-fi guy, I appreciated that it was an open space station. It had its own atmosphere that anyone could fly into. I don't think I've ever seen that in a sci-fi movie before. The stuff on the Earth, it looked too much like District 9. Johannesburg in District 9 and Los Angeles in Elysium could be one and the same, and that was a problem. It did not give Elysium its own voice and its own look.
Let's talk about the cinematography, the handheld stuff. I couldn't see anything that was happening. It was so handheld that I actually got nauseous, and I never got nauseous. But my head started to hurt. I couldn't focus on what was going on, and then they kind of calmed down when they went to Elysium, but right back to the fights, I just couldn't tell what was going on, and at that point, I check out. I don't care anymore.
I get that you know, there are certain things in any kind of movie where, yeah, if you're going to nitpick them, it doesn't hold water. But this is obviously a movie, as much as it is an action film, it is still a film that wants to be taken seriously because it beats you over the head with so many issues. So if you're going to want me to take you seriously, then you got to be a watertight ship and not have any plot holes in it.
Neill Blomkamp creates a wonderful world, but unfortunately, there's too many bells and whistles and not enough story to tie it all together. Stream it.
Elysium feels too much like District 9, but with a bigger budget, a convoluted story, it's far less groundbreaking, a major bummer. I say skip it.
Elysium is a disappointment, but it has its merits, so I say stream it.
All right, our votes add up to 1 full ticket, which is a stream it for Elysium. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to the next one.
You spilled.